Well, Michelle, Apple's CEO Tim Cook suggesting that he's willing to take this case all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary, and he laid out what's at stake here.
The trade-off here is we know that doing this could expose people to incredible vulnerabilities. This is not something that we would create. This would be bad for America. It would also set a precedent that I believe many people in America would be offended by.
So clearly Tim Cook there choosing to stand his ground. He does not want his engineers to write new software to bypass the security of this iPhone. In part, that's because that new software could be stolen by hackers or cyber criminals, he says, and put the security of millions of iPhones at risk. And that's why Cook says this debate isn't just about privacy and security. It's all about safety, that your iPhone, he says, knows more about you than any other device. Cook also says he learned about this court filing from the press. The Obama administration, he says, did not give Apple or him a heads up. He says he will be meeting the president to discuss the case. Joe, back to you.
Really? Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, the House Judiciary Committee will hold a hearing exploring security versus privacy next Tuesday. And Apple CEO Tim Cook has been invited to the hearing, but no word yet if he will attend. Joining us now with more on this is Congressman Bob Goodlatte. He is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. In your world, Congressman, is it clear-cut what Apple should do and they're not doing?
It's not clear-cut, but the first thing that we need to recognize is that this issue of the balance between security and privacy and protecting civil liberties is not a new one. It's not even new in the communications environment because it's been going on for over 20 years in terms of what the government can access and under what circumstances they can access it. Secondly, it's important to note that encryption, which is at the core of this debate, is very, very important. It's a very positive thing that all of our devices and communication systems use very strong encryption. That wasn't true 20, 30 years ago. So people are safer, but they're still not safe enough. So the efforts by tech companies to enhance encryption and make it harder for people to crack into these systems and that people can't get access to keys to open them up are very, very important. Now, having said that, law enforcement obviously has serious problems in detecting crime and solving crimes with the advance of encryption. That's why this issue needs to be addressed by the Congress, and that's why the Judiciary Committee is having a hearing, which, by the way, we'd already scheduled the hearing on encryption before the news broke about this Apple-FBI dispute. I mean,
this goes back hundreds of years.
Oh, it does,
I mean,
right?
In principle, trying to decide, privacy rights versus what the government is allowed. Again, we've grappled with it with, warrants and Miranda. I mean, so many different. So it's not a new argument. And in the past, the slippery slope argument has worked a lot of times. That we give up something. We give up, some things that we'd like because of the purity, the pure instinct to keep things private. That suddenly there's gray areas here, and it's like, oh no. This involves terrorism. So all of our previous principles we need to compromise because this involves possible terrorism. When it was always clear, you need a warrant. You need,
But there is a warrant.
Okay, I'm just talking about the overall, the general idea of protecting privacy versus saying, well, in this case, it's the security. We're talking to the congressman. So what do you say to that, Congressman?
Well, first of all, you're right. This goes all the way back to the Constitution itself, which provides measures for the country to protect itself, but it also, in the Bill of Rights adopted immediately after the Constitution was adopted, provided a Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches and seizures.
Right.
In this case, the government has a warrant. They have a reasonable basis for wanting to look into this phone. It's their solution for how to do that that is in question here because they're asking Apple to create software that once it's created makes not only this phone vulnerable to getting into it, which we want them to get into to find out what's there, who else might have been conspiring with these murderers and terrorists in San Bernardino.
Andrew says that's
but it
not
also
true.
gets
Tell
into
the Congressman why that's not true, Andrew. That's not what they're doing.
Congressman, I just want to make two points on this.
But he just said something you said is not true, right?
Well, the one piece of it that's not true is it's not clear. Well, it's not even not clear The goal is not to then take this new piece of software, put it on everybody's phone, and therefore open it up to everybody. It's the slippery slope potential that somebody gets access to this master key.
I'm not arguing that you put it on everybody's phone. I'm arguing that its existence will become a vulnerability to everyone's phone.
Correct.
Because somebody getting access to it other than Apple or other than the government with a warrant can abuse this and make everybody's phones vulnerable.
That's 100% correct, but what I'm trying to, the thing that I'm trying to grapple with in this is that in the analog world, right, and I've used this example 10,000 times, but if you have, if there's a crime that's committed inside your apartment or inside a hotel or whatever, invariably, and there's the police can go to the landlord, the hotel company, whomever, and say, please open the door. And if they don't open the door, then they can even go to the key maker and say, please make a key. And if they don't do that, they can say, we're just going to bust down the door. What is the problem in this instance?
Well, the problem is the nature of communications and the change in the way people store their data.
Right.
In the past, if they didn't want anybody else to have access to it, they could put it in their place where only they knew it was going to be.
But
now
why is this information immune? Why is it a technology company or in the technology world, digital world, somehow that world is immune from subpoena power when the subpoena and the warrant is legally taken?
It's not what the technology companies want that's important. It's what their consumers want. It's what American citizens want. And that attitude has changed because more and more information about them is stored in devices and in the cloud in ways that people do not trust other people getting access to it. And so this change in attitude needs to be reflected. Where that's reflected is in the United States Congress. It's a serious problem balancing security and civil liberties, and that's why we're going to hold this hearing, and that's why we're going to delve into it deeper. And ultimately, we may find some solutions that satisfy the people that we represent.
What do you think
that's what the issue is about.
What do you think a solution looks like?
I don't have a specific solution to this problem because, as I said, I want to promote stronger and stronger use of encryption. And as these devices become more interoperable and able for somebody in the Ukraine to attack a system, whether a U.S. government agency or a business or an individual, and get access to it means that we are not strong enough yet in protecting encryption.
What about ISIS using these tools to attack us?
Well, absolutely right. That's why end-to-end encryption, protecting people, is very, very important. But that does create problems.
To use the tool to then physically, to use the tool to create the crime that physically attacks us, not digitally.
I'm not sure I follow what you're saying, but I certainly believe that improving security is a very, very important thing to do for individuals, for the government, for businesses, and that's what these tech companies are trying to develop. When you create backdoor keys of various kinds that access part or all of these things, once that key exists, that creates a vulnerability that people worry about. You also have to consider the international competition here. If you require this of U.S. companies, but other businesses are out there around the rest of the world developing products and saying the U.S. government doesn't have a backdoor key to our products, you've got a serious problem there as well. The world is much more intercommunicative than it's ever been before, and encryption is a key part of protecting people.
And
but it also protects people who are plotting against us, and that is why we're holding this hearing.
And whenever you say stronger and stronger encryption is something that we want, that's mutually exclusive from saying strong encryption that some people can get through. It's mutually exclusive. And maybe if we just get rid of phones, words, sentences, and all these other things that these terrorists are using, maybe then we'll be safe, because they're all using words to communicate too, and sentences and phones, and maybe we can just get rid of all of them, Andrew, and I don't know, and then maybe, I don't know, get rid of it all.
Words are worth protecting too. That's the First Amendment of the Constitution.
It always involves words. If we go to the source and just get rid of the words, then anyway, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.